What's up, everybody? How we doing? What's going on?
Oh, we doing good. I don't know if y'all know this, but Grace and I went to Trek the other day
Nice.
with the Tri-City State Trek up in Washington, and they are so cute up there. It literally reminded us of how fun Trek was and all like the dances and our little get-ups and outfits. Y'all remember that when y'all danced?
That's not how I remember it.
How'd you
I
remember
remember
it?
having to wear the long sleeve shirts and
In the
pants.
middle of 90
And I
degree
had
weather.
and I had a buddy and he cut his pants into shorts
Smart.
and he was trying to get them even. And so he just kept going higher and higher and higher.
Oh,
And we we're
no.
all together and the leader was directing our attention to the mailman that was coming on the horse because they were trying to teach us how they did the mail back in the day. And there was my buddy walking with his booty shorts to us. That's what I remember from Trek.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
a lot to
That's
think
not
about.
that's not what I expected.
Nope, that's not. That's a very
Yeah.
unique experience. I'll be honest.
It was a different kind of pioneer fashion, you
That's
know.
all I remember.
That's a good track. Also, something exciting. Our little wear win bracelets, the little bracelets that have a scripture on them, Hollis will demonstrate. He loves it. They're the cutest little bracelets ever. And we just redid the packaging so we can make them cheaper. So now you can get 3 bracelets for $9, which is like super awesome. You can get them for you. You can get them for a friend. They're our
Wow.
favorite things in the world. Honestly, they're my favorite gift. Like, I love to give them.
Number
to-
one right now, huh? Favorite gift.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Just
Yeah, that is. That
That
really,
is
truly
very
is. I
good.
don't know why you're shocked. Anyways, yes. So,
Wait, can I share how it was a gift? I was at the gym with my homie and we were just like lifting and I just took it off and put it on his wrist.
No way.
See?
That's actually so
see?
TJ's
Yeah,
favorite
that's
gift.
so cute. I
So
really
it's their
do love to
Because
get
he
them.
binded up my broken heart because he told us we should do chest day.
And it was your best day.
Yeah,
You couldn't wait.
that's right.
See?
Chest-
Okay.
Best day was best
So-
day.
Yeah.
Get some more win bracelets. Give them to your friends at the gym. Give them to everyone. Wear them yourself. They're $9. So super exciting. And
let's get it.
that's that. Welcome to This is Kingdom. This is Grace.
This is Talon.
This is TJ.
And this is Hollis. And this week, we are reading the talk Swallowed Up in the Joy of Christ by Elder Brian K. Taylor.
And guys, I love this talk. I love this talk so much. And I was thinking a lot about how to start it. And I didn't think this is how I was going to start it, but it is. We actually talked a couple weeks ago about, several weeks ago, I don't remember how long ago, about hard and how a lot of times we blame God for the hard, but it's not even God's fault. Like he's not the one that makes the hard. But I had a friend that asked me something about that. And they're like, okay, maybe God doesn't make that happen, but sometimes he could do something about it and he doesn't. And this friend, she lost someone really close in her life. And she's like, listen, I'm not saying God made him sick, but I am saying God could have healed him and he didn't. And that's really hard to know that he didn't do anything about it. And I've been thinking about it so much because I'm like, yeah, I actually feel you on that. Like that is tough. We believe in a God that is all powerful, that can heal all things, that sometimes doesn't use that power, that sometimes doesn't heal. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to our minds. And I don't have a perfect explanation for this is why he heals sometimes and this is why he doesn't heal sometimes. But this quote just speaks to my soul. It is one of my new favorite quotes. I want to memorize it. I want to put it on my mirror. Like I want this quote running through my mind again and again and again. Because I think if we can remember this quote, we might not have a perfect explanation for why he's not healing or why he's not changing things when he could. But I think it will change the experience in pretty significant ways. This is the quote. Y'all ready for it?
Mhm.
Is by Elder Orson F. Whitney. And it says, no pain that we suffer, no trial that we experience is wasted. It ministers to our education. All that we patiently endure builds up our characters, purifies our hearts, expands our souls, and makes us more tender and charitable. It is through sorrow and suffering, toil and tribulation, that we gain the education that we come here to acquire, which will make us more like our heavenly parents. Isn't that good, y'all? That is like my new favorite quote. And I just like, is so comforting to me that every single pain, everything we suffer, God can give it a divine purpose. He can use that to mold us and to shape us. And I feel like I'm always striving to become better and to grow. And for me to know that maybe I don't have an explanation for why God doesn't change certain things that he could, and why he doesn't heal certain things. But I know that if he doesn't, he can use those things for my good.
Maybe that was a controversial episode. I don't know why.
Did someone talk to you about it too?
Yes, because I had a friend text me about it, like literally the very day that it came out. And they like just like gave me all these thoughts that they had about it. And it was so interesting because they shared this story of their friend who had just gone through something really hard. They had just lost one of their kids and they were in the hospital room at like right after they had lost them. And it was so interesting because this is what they said in the hospital. And I cannot get this like sentence line out of my head. They said, in the moments of deepest hurt like this is when God reaches deep into your soul, pulls you close, and changes you.
Mm.
And it's so interesting because I think that I don't think any of us want to go through things like that. I don't think any of us have the desire to just have terrible news or like get the diagnosis or lose the person that we dread or whatever the like fear is of those like terrible, terrible things. But the experiences that we have in those moments seem to be irreplaceable. And it's this moment when God really does reach into our story. And I love that he said, like, he pulls us close and then he helps us change. And I think sometimes we get it backwards and we think, no, like the hard moments are when God changes you and like turns you into the person you need to be. But we cannot get confused that before he helps us change, he holds us close and he will wrap us up in his arms and he will reach out to exactly where we are. And I think it's really hard in those moments to realize that that's what's happening. And I think it's really hard to like, nothing makes those difficult moments easier. Like nothing fixes it. Like, it's just like, that is really hard. Like that's true. But the God we believe in will meet us where we are. He will hold us close and he will help us change in those moments.
So good. I'm just thinking about Titan has been sick this past couple weeks, and it's really hard. It's like the first time he's really gotten sick. It's just like whimpering and crying. And usually he's like happy. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's such a happy baby. But man, when he's been kind of down and out. And something that Lo and I have noticed and something that we've shared with each other is he's been so snuggly with us because he's so sick. And before that, he's getting into like his crawl around, stand up on stuff phase, like fall down, hit his head phase. And so he hasn't been as snuggly with us as the first few months. And so it's just crazy. Like I've told Lo, like I'm not happy, obviously, like I'm not happy that he's sick, but I am happy that while he is sick, he wants to be snuggled and he wants to be held and he wants to be close to us, a little bit different from before. And I can't help but think about God, and maybe God has a similar thing with that. Like, I don't think God is happy when we're in our struggle or when we lose someone close to us or when we lose a kid, but maybe he is happy that in those moments we fall back to him and we are so much more willing to be held when we're taken out of like the busy hustle and bustle of life, you know?
Mm. Well, and I love that part of hard. I love the part of hard that when I'm in those times, I reach for God more than I reach for him in any other time. I yearn for him. I want him and I need him. And I end up feeling him more because of that. I end up having more tender little experiences where I hear his voice, where I feel his comfort, and I cherish those things. And sometimes it really is those hard moments that push us to reach for him like we haven't reached for him in a while. And that really can be a blessing.
I love that so much. There's a quote in this talk as well where the person going through that hard trial, they were talking about as, I have wrestled with the intense pain caused by my recent injury. I have felt an even deeper appreciation for Jesus Christ and the gift of his atonement. And I love that. And I can't help but think of Enos, guys, in the Book of Mormon, when he was in that wrestle, when he had questions, he had trials, he had those things that he was going through. But when he was engaged in that wrestle, he did it with God, not against God, not God as his opponent, but God was on his team the entire time. And I feel like that's when you can feel lonely. That's when you can feel even depressed, is when you are in those moments and you do not involve God in the picture. You do not involve God in the fight. You don't involve God in that wrestle. But when you do, you can feel him hold you. You can feel him be with you, and you can feel him magnify and create beauty out of those ashes that were created.
I got to share this quote that goes right with what you just said, Hollis, from the talk. He says, it's cool because he kind of breaks down the title of the talk. And he says, this phrase, swallowed up, deeply moves me. My interest was heightened when I learned that in Spanish, swallowed up is translated as consumed, in German as devoured, and in Chinese as engulfed. Thus, when life's challenges are most painful and overwhelming, I remember the Lord's promise that we should suffer no manner of afflictions, save it be swallowed up, consumed, devoured, and engulfed in the joy of Christ. And I can't think of any better position to be in when we're feeling the lowest of lows, when we're down and out, and when we're experiencing things we never thought we would ever have to experience. I can't think of any better position than to be these three things: to be consumed, devoured, and engulfed in the joy of Jesus.
There's a story in the Bible that I love. It's one of my very favorites. And I didn't find it until kind of recently, like within the last couple of years. And it's the story of Hezekiah. And Hezekiah was a good guy. And I'm not talking just kind of good. He spent his life trying to be good, trying to have a relationship with God, trying to do everything that was right. He tried to live his life in a very good way, close to God. And he got really sick. And not just kind of sick, but the type of sick that like someone looked at him and was like, hey, you should write your will and like you should like start giving your stuff away because this is it for you. Like you're not going to last very much longer. And when you get news like that, you don't like brush it off quick. You know, that one kind of stings. And he went home and he just cried and cried and cried. And the scriptures tell us that he decided to get down on his knees and pray. And he starts his prayer. And he is so real for this because his prayer starts like this: God, I have been so good. I'm a good person. I've lived my life trying to be good. I've done everything you've asked me to. It says like, I have tried to do everything that's good in your sight, God. Like anything that you would have wanted me to do, I have tried to do that. I've spent my entire life doing that. And that is such an honest prayer when something bad happens in your life. God, I have been doing my very best. Like, why did this happen to me? I've done everything you asked. I've kept all the commandments. Why are you giving me this trial? Why am I going through this? Why isn't life like, why am I not being blessed right now? And his prayer doesn't get answered right then. In fact, it says like that verse ends and it just says, and Hezekiah wept sore. That is a deep amount of crying if you are crying so much that you wake up sore the next morning. That's not like a couple of tears. That's devastation. And then the next day, his friend comes over and he walks in and he's like, hey, I have a message from God for you. And he's like, okay, what is it? And the message just was this. God says that he has heard your prayers and he has seen your tears. And Hezekiah ends up getting healed and it works out in the end for him. But I wonder if the bigger miracle for him that day was the message from God. When God looked down and said, hey, I am hearing your prayers and I've seen every single one of your tears. And I think it's in that moment that God shows us that he is holding us close. And when we're in the middle of these deeply devastating and hard and difficult moments in our lives, I think God would look down and he will hold us close and he will say the same thing that he said to Hezekiah, that I've seen your tears and I've heard your prayers and I'm with you right now.
It's so good. And I can't help but think of that friend that I was talking about at the beginning. Because of what happened and because of how she felt about God, she stepped away from him for years. And the way she describes it, she got to the darkest spot of her life. And she had some really cool experiences that led her to start connecting to God again. I was just listening to her talk the other day. I'm like, she is like living a beautiful life. Like she is a beautiful soul. Like she has so much good to her. And I think it all changed when she stopped being mad at God and she started letting God use that pain. And she started letting him shape her and grow her and change her. And I just look at her now and I'm like, man, God has done something really good with you. And he's doing so much good with you. And I just so believe with every single one of us, if we stop being mad about the hard and we stop stepping away from him because of the hard and we step to him and connect to him, he can do beautiful things in us with the hard things that happen.
Walk with me, I'll walk with you down these troubled roads we stumbled into. We're all in this thing together, we're gonna make it through. If you walk with me, I'll walk with you. Yeah, everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright. 'Cause you and me got better days coming. Yeah, everything is gonna be alright. Yeah, everything is gonna be alright.
See you next week.